Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Philip and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this nice game of color switch on Scratch. Now in this game you have a ball that's bouncing around when you click the space key, and you have to try to avoid these obstacles, and if you hit an obstacle it says game over and everything stops. If you hit the ground it says game over and everything stops. You also have the score at the top of the screen that increases every time you pass an obstacle. In this game, we make each obstacle have its own speed and direction that it turns in, and we also simulate gravity for the ball. So make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. So let's get started. Click the create button, and the first thing we're going to do is get the ball sprite. Now Scratch has a ball sprite that I'm going to use. So here we go, let's get rid of the cat. And let's choose a sprite. And we want this ball, and we want the ball to fall. So to do this, we're obviously going to have to change the y by something. So let's change y in a forever. Let's change y by, to fall down, we need by negative thing. Let's do -1. Let's test it and see what it does. We can see that it falls down, but it always falls at the same speed. Now, when something falls, there's gravity. It falls faster and faster. So, to do this, we are going to need this value to not always be -1, but to be, let's start with -1, then go to like -2, -3, and so on. So for this, let's make a variable that we will call fall speed. At the beginning, set fall speed to, like I said, -1. And we'll change the y by fall speed, and then the fall speed has to get smaller. So change fall speed by -1. Let's test. Let's position it 0, 0 at the beginning so you can see how it falls. Alright, and there you go, it falls faster and faster. Now another thing I want to do is when I click a key, so I'm going to do, let's say, space key. When I click it, we'll just give it like a little push and it goes up. So if key space pressed, then we want to change, so we're going to have to change this variable by something because it goes down, and when we click it we want it to go up. So instead of changing it by something, we are going to set it to something positive so it directly goes up. So let's just say 10, set fall speed to 10. Let's test it, and now I'm clicking space and you can see that it goes up. Next, let's make the ball a bit smaller because it's a bit too big. So let's try 50. Let's just test it to see how it is. Let's see again. I think that's good. Yeah, that's good size. Alright, and what we're going to do is add this cool effect where this ball leaves a trail of balls behind it. Now, to do this effect, we obviously need clones. So, and the clones are going to stay on the screen for a bit, then disappear. Alright, so in the forever, we're going to create a clone of myself. And when I start as a clone, we'll, like I said, stay a bit on the screen. Wait 0.5 seconds, and then delete the clone. Alright, let's test it. And we can see that it has a trail of balls behind it. The ball has a trail of balls behind it. But instead of this wait, let's add another effect. So let's add an effect. Okay, so say repeat 10 times. Change, let's do the ghost effect, which makes it transparent, by 10. Let's try it. And I think that looks perfect. Next, let's add a background. So let's choose a background from Scratch. It already has a nice star background that I'm going to use. And yeah, that looks good. Next, I'm going to add the obstacle sprite. So let's go ahead and paint a sprite. Now I'm going to have a sprite with 4 costumes. Now you can do clones if you want, but I'm just going to do one sprite for costumes. Right now, this first one, I'm going to make a square. To make a perfect square, make sure you hold down Shift. And what I am going to do is I'm going to make no fill, no color in the middle. I'm just going to make an outline, and I'm just going to erase that there's a space for the ball to go through it. Like I said, this is going to be one of the obstacles. So I'm going to go ahead and make it red. So now let's get the eraser and make a hole in each side so that the ball can fit through it. Alright, let's do that for all 4 sides. And make sure the holes are about the same size. And like I said, make sure that your ball has space to go through the holes. Okay? So let's keep on perfecting it. And what I'm going to do next is another obstacle. So I'm going to paint another obstacle. And I'm going to do the same with the circle. So again, hold down Shift to get a perfect circle. And I'm going to do the same. No fill, but the outline is going to be red. I'm going to make an outline. And of course, holes so that the ball can go in. Alright. Now, like I said, try to get them as even as possible, but of course you can't get them perfectly even. So just try your best on that. Alright. Next, I'm just going to add another costume, and I am going to make 2 lines right next to each other that will, so that you can go right in the middle of them. It's the only way you can pass them. Now I'm going to do the same. Hold Shift to get a perfect straight line. And I'm just going to copy paste it so that it's the same size. Make sure it's somewhat the same Y, the same okay. And next I'm going to make another costume that I am going to make. It's going to be 2 horizontal lines right next to each other, but I'm going to make this by making 1 horizontal line and making a hole in the middle, so erasing the middle part. Alright? And then center it. I forgot to say, but make sure you center all of them, okay? So yeah, let's just go ahead and perfect this. And that's what my 4 costumes for the sprites are gonna be. Now let's not forget to set the X to 0 so that it's centered. So here, change it to 0. Alright, and now let's go to the code, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna make it spin. So when green flag clicked, let's say forever, we're gonna turn some degrees. Okay, let's say pick random actually. From -10 to 10. Let's test it. And we see that it changes the where it turns. So like it turns, let's say it picks from this pick random -3, and then since it's in the forever, it picks it again, it picks a different one, and it picks like, so let's say 7. So that that's why it keeps like going a bit that way, then changes, a bit that way, and changes, right? So we're gonna need a variable that I'm gonna call turn direction. Okay, and at the beginning we'll set turn direction to a pick random from -10, 10, and we'll turn direction degrees. Let's test it. And there you go. At the beginning it picks a direction and it goes that direction the whole time. Alright, so now let's add a cool color effect. So in the forever, we'll change color effect by, let's say 5, so that it changes color, so that it looks cool. Alright, and I think that looks very good. Now let's make it possible for all 4 of the costumes to appear. So we will switch costume to the beginning. Since I have 4 costumes, a pick random from 1 to 4 is what I'm going to do. But if you have a different number of costumes, it's from 1 to the number of costumes you have. Alright, so let's test it. And here, my first one is this one. And if I start it again, there's a square. There's that one. And let's try to get the circle, just to make sure. Okay, there's the circle. Alright, so that's good. Now, instead of the ball that's going to go up, well, and down, we're going to make the obstacle come down and up. So, in the ball code, this change y by fall speed is the thing that makes the ball go up. So, if we get rid of that, we're going to replace it with a broadcast, because we're going to broadcast a message, and then we're going to go to the obstacle, and when I receive that message, it'll come down. Alright, so we'll name it move. Alright, and here when I receive move, we are going to change y by something. And that something will be the opposite of what it was for the ball. So, before, for the ball, it was fall speed. Change y by fall speed. This will be the opposite, like I said, so 0 minus fall speed. Alright, let's test it. And here, when we click space, the obstacle goes down and then up. Now, let's name the sprite. So, obstacle. Alright. As you can see, the ball always stays in one position at all times. So, we're going to do this thing where if the ball is in the bottom half of the screen, then the ball will move. If it reaches a certain y, which for me is going to be 0, so if y is like greater than 0, then we will want the obstacle to move. So to do this, we will go to the ball code, and we're going to do an if-else, because if the condition is true, then we'll do this. If the condition is false, we'll do this. That's what we want to do. So if, like I said, y is like greater than 0 for me, because I picked the coordinate 0, because it's half the screen. If y position is greater than 0, then we will want the obstacles to move. So we will, to make the obstacles move, we broadcast the message. So there we go. Otherwise, so else, we will just change y by fall speed. So the ball will move. So let's test it. And here's the ball. Under the screen, you see under half the screen, so the bottom half of the screen, the ball is moving, and when we go on top half of the screen, the obstacles are moving. Now I see that I can't go back under half the screen once I've reached this position. So here, we're only going to tell the obstacle to move if we're going up. So if the ball is going up, because if it's going down, that means that we need the ball to move. So how do we know when the ball is going up? Well, when fall speed is positive. So fall speed is greater than 0. So we'll actually also need an AND block. Right? Okay. Let's test. So here on the bottom half it works, top half, and then I go back to the bottom half, it works. When I'm on the top half, the obstacles move. So that is good. Next, let's make the obstacles reappear at the top of the screen when they reach at the bottom of the screen. So when we pass the obstacle. So let's go to the obstacle, and we're going to ask ourselves if our y position is smaller than negative, let's say 200. Now, you know the y position goes from negative 180 to 180. I'm doing negative 200 because um, the y that I'm writing here marks the center of the sprite. So it might appear too much of the sprite at once if we do negative 180. So I'm just going to do negative 200. Alright, so if that happens, we'll set y2 200. And when this happens, basically everything resets. So it's like a new sprite appears, except it's the same sprite, just goes up there. So we will need to pick our costumes and our turn direction again. So we'll put the same code, we'll duplicate it there. Let's test it. And here we go. When I pass one, it goes to the top, and you can see that that works. So that's good. Next, I see two problems. Number one, this pick random from for the turn direction from negative 10 to 10 goes a bit too fast for me, and I can barely make it through the obstacles. Sometimes I can't even do it. So I'm going to do it from negative 5 to 5. Alright? And next, I also see another problem. Like I said, I saw two problems. If the pick random picks 0, then it stays still. And we don't want it to stay still, because if it stays still and it's like those two lines, horizontal lines, if it stays just like that, then there's no way you're going to get past that. So every time after we set the turn direction to something, we will ask ourselves if it equals 0. So if turn direction equals 0. And what we're going to do is we're just going to set it to a different value. So we'll just set it to, let's say 2. I don't know. Alright, so we'll do this here after we set it. And we're going to have to do this also here, because we also set it here. So another thing I see is that we need this set y to 200 at the beginning, the very beginning, because we want it to start at the top. Alright? And now I see that the same code right here, the set y, switch costume, set, and this if, happens here and here. So I think we should just create a block and switch it up. So create a block. We'll call it reset obstacle. Right? Okay. And here, when it says define, we're going to put this code that is over here in this, so which was originally here and here. So instead of the code, we're just going to take the block that we created and put it there. So reset obstacle and reset obstacle. And here's the define. Alright, so there you go. Let's test this. And let's test, let's pass through the obstacle. It reaches the top. And yeah, I don't think any of them will stay still. And at the beginning, they start at the top. So that's good. Next, let's add a score. So let's go to the variables, make a variable, score. When green flag clicked, set score to 0. And every time we pass an obstacle, we want to change score by 1. So every time we pass an obstacle is when they have to go back to the top. So in this if. Alright, next, let's stay in the obstacle code and ask ourselves if we're touching the ball. If touching ball, then say game over for 2 seconds and stop all. Alright, let's go to the ball code. We're going to ask ourselves if our y position is smaller than negative 175. Say game over for 2 seconds, stop all. Alright, let's test. So if I hit an obstacle, it says game over, stop all. And if I hit the ground, it says game over, stop all. Now let's test my score too. So let's try to pass through an obstacle. Pass through an obstacle, my score went up by 1. Alright, so that's good. Let's name the project. I'm going to name it Color Switch because that's the game that I got the idea to make this game from. So, of course, you can improve this game by adding multiple levels, adding different game modes, maybe adding different obstacles, more like fancy obstacles, alright? So, thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video, and I'll see you next time for another game we can make on Scratch.